And now to the impeachment of President Trump. For days, it appeared Democrats may have won the fight over expanding the impeachment hearings to allow new witnesses and new documents. Tonight, it appears they have failed.
This comes after an extraordinary day in the U.S. Senate when senators got their chance to ask questions. KCAL 9 political reporter Randy Page joins us now with some of those surprising answers, Randy.
That's right. You know, we're trying to read tea leaves here. We really don't know how this is going to turn out. And in some ways, today's session in the impeachment trial was a refreshing change. Information provided in 5-minute digestible chunks, with both sides given plenty of opportunities to answer the senators' questions. But after 8 hours of Q&A, 2 important questions are still unanswered. One, will new documents and witnesses be brought into the trial? And if not, could President Trump be acquitted by the end of the week?
Senator Leahy asks the House manager.
If you're thinking written questions,
Senator Feinstein asks,
followed by 5-minute answers,
not defined in criminal conduct. This authority includes nearly every
hour after hour.
split the 5 minutes equally.
Sounds deadly boring. One of the president's lawyers has got news for you when he answered this question.
As a matter of law, does it matter if there was a quid pro quo? Is it true that quid pro quos are often used in foreign policy?
The question is referring to the allegation President Trump held up military aid to Ukraine to pressure the Ukrainian president to announce investigations into the Bidens.
The only thing that would make a quid pro quo unlawful is if the quo were in some way illegal.
And the only way a president's quid pro quo could be illegal, Alan Dershowitz argued, is if the president has a corrupt motive.
Every public official that I know believes that his election is in the public interest. And mostly you're right. Your election is in the public interest. And if a president does something which he believes will help him get elected in the public interest, that cannot be the kind of quid pro quo that results in impeachment.
Lead House Manager Adam Schiff says that's absurd.
The reality is, for a president to withhold military aid from an ally, to target their political opponent is wrong and corrupt, period.
CNN political analyst Gloria Borger had this to say about Alan Dershowitz's impeachment theory.
It seems ridiculous to say that just because you think you should be elected to an office, you can do anything you want to get there.
Because that's in the public interest.
Because you believe you're the chosen one or whatever it is. It's just absurd.
It's almost. The question of John Bolton testifying in the trial continues to loom large over the proceeding. Today, Mitt Romney made his position clear.
I'd like to hear from John Bolton because I think there are questions that I have that he could answer.
It's clear Bolton is on the president's mind as well. On Twitter, President Trump said his former national security advisor begged him for a job. And if I listened to him, we would be in World War VI by now, the president tweeted. He also trashed Bolton's upcoming book, calling it nasty and untrue. Tonight, the president retweeted this clip currently running on Fox News from an interview with Bolton last August.
We'll be meeting President Zelensky. He and President Trump have already spoken twice. They were very warm and cordial calls. We're hoping that they'll be able to meet in Warsaw and have a few minutes together.
It also appears the White House is trying to keep Bolton's side of the story under wraps. CBS News obtained this letter from the president's National Security Council to Bolton's lawyer, saying the manuscript of Bolton's upcoming book contains top secret level classified information that may not be published or otherwise disclosed. And while the letter was only made public today, it's dated January 23rd, the day after President Trump said this about Bolton's potential testimony.
The problem with John is that it's a national security problem.
The president made this statement before the explosive allegations from Bolton's manuscript were made public by the New York Times that President Trump told Bolton military aid to Ukraine depended on investigating the Bidens.
The senator from Michigan.
The question of Bolton's testimony came up more than once in the Senate chamber today.
Is there any way for the Senate to render a fully informed verdict in this case without hearing the testimony of Bolton?
No. There's no way to have a fair trial without witnesses.
Then the president would have to have his opportunity to call his witnesses. And there'd be depositions, and this would drag on for months.
That is one of the arguments many Senate Republicans are offering Once you begin to call witnesses, the trial could go on for months. So the question before them, if you are sure how you will vote, regardless of what witnesses have to say, well, why not get it over with? At this hour, it appears there could be only 3 senators who still haven't made up their mind on the question of witnesses. And that means if those 3 do vote to call witnesses, it would be a 50-50 tie. And Chief Justice John Roberts could be called in to break that tie. How is that for a Hollywood ending?
Could go any way. All right, Randy, thank you.